for the love of my country, for exalted character and patriotic devotion. And let me remind all of us here seated again as legislators that every nation of mankind is created by God with their material and human resources. Government and governance is only a guide, for no nation can grow beyond or above their human and material resources for those who has a relationship with God. Let me again say, probably this is the beginning of the 9th Senate. And if you recall, Mr. President, at the inception of the 9th Senate, I did mention that a forum like this should exist, where we can expand our vision and let the world know what the 9th Senate has for this nation. When we discuss the issues of security, thank God that Senator Alero and his team has come up with something thought-provoking topic of the agenda. When we speak of agenda, we are saying to the world, what do we have for the Nigerian nation as a legislature? Where are we going to? What difference can we make? What's the program? A sense of direction. And without a direction, every government, be it legislature, executive, or judiciary, will fail. So today, we are making a serious attempt in giving to our nation a direction by discussing the agenda of the 9th Assembly. Mr. President, my President, I also want to thank you for making our time. I heard you say, even if this is the only thing we discuss for today, it's worth it. Because most of us here may not even understand the agenda why we're here. To some of us who have been elected to remain politically relevant in the system, for some, it is a place to now cool off as politicians. For governors, most likely. And for some others, it is a place to come and discuss what goes through a society. But we have failed to understand that we are not senators of Oboko or Olu or Imo or Anambra or Zamfara. We are senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In my secondary school, and I'm sure you had the opportunity of studying that very interesting topic, which I made an A1, political science. And government.
We call it government. If you make it one, it's government.
Now one of the simplest questions was to define the three arms of government. They ask us, what is legislature? We say legislators are the lawmakers. Executive execute the laws being made. Judiciary interpret the law. But what we have failed to understand in this country is that we have only one government, which is called the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We do not have legislative government of Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have only one government. And when we talk about principles of separation of power, Mr. President, those separations of power was just to bring about checks and balances, but not cause disunity among the three arms of government. But today it looks like the only way we can pride ourselves as legislators is if we are seeing a confrontation with the executive or the judiciary. This again is what I call an act of Iberiberism. But, Mr. President, now, Mr. President, please. The matter before us is so crucial and very interesting that opportunities must be given those who have ideas to do so. The question we need to ask ourselves in setting the agenda today is, what really is the problem of Nigeria? Why is Nigeria still the way it is? Why are we having an increasing security challenges in a geometrical progression? Why is there hunger in our land? Why is it that nations that we helped in the past, like South Korea and Malaysia, and even Dubai, has overtaken us? And we have become a laughing stock in the face of other nations. These are what will determine the kind of agenda we set for ourselves. But the way it is now, if you can only answer this question, then we might not set a proper agenda. But let me remind us, our number one agenda, Senator Alero, our number one agenda with your committee should be the people, and nothing but the people. And we have a duty to make an agenda that guarantees happiness to every common man in this country. But because political power is a trust which can only be justified when used for the benefit of the common man. So our agenda must remain the people, and nothing but the people. Now, in setting this agenda, I thought that since we have one government, Federal Republic of Nigeria, there would have been a joint action committee comprising of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, with you seated as Mr. Senate President, to discuss together before we separate ourselves to find solution. Today, the executive is speaking from different angle, judiciary is from a different angle, legislature is a different angle. But let me remind all of us, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished senators, that where a nation has failed, the legislature is held responsible. Because legislature is the pivot upon which the wheels of every arm of government rotates. We start what the executive does, and we start what the judiciary does. Without legislature, there can't be action of executive, and there cannot be an action of legislature. So I suggest that there must be a teamwork first. Even in the making of our budgets, we must understand, for instance, let me give you an example, let me take a practical approach. President Muhammad Buhari, what do you want to do for Nigeria? First question. I want to do A, B, C, D. Okay. Let all the laws we make be gathered towards making you achieve this. That makes the matter a simple task. And there will be progress in this land. A nation that is faced with extreme danger like Nigeria today should seek the wisest course of action, not of convention. There's so much of talk shop, like doing shop. And this is why today we're not able to come together with the executive, give them what they want to make sure they give the Nigerians what Nigerians need. So our laws must change. Our style must change. And if we keep doing the same old things, the same old ways, we shall keep getting the same old results. There will be no difference between the 8th Assembly and 9th Assembly if we do not change our style, even on the way we conduct the affairs of the Senate. I wish the leader of the Senate will allow me to expand my voice. Now, what exactly I'm saying here, Mr. President, is that we have to, as a nation first, understand the fact that all is not well with this country. And we have to adopt a new method of approach in approaching issues in this country. And by cutting our coat according to the material available, not according to our size. Because what we are doing today, which presidential system of government provides for us, is that we must cut our coat according to our size and not according to material available. What I mean by this is that first and foremost, what will make Nigerians have confidence in this Senate is to introduce the principles of sacrifice. We, the senators, have to dramatize this, even it is for purpose of letting the public and the ordinary people know that this Senate is willing to make a difference. Because if you cannot imbibe in the spirit of sacrifice, you have no business with any leadership. The point I want to make in cutting our coat according to our size, and I give you examples of what is holding this country down. Today we have Federal Ministry of Agriculture. In the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, my question is, why should we have Federal Ministry of Agriculture? You must practice agriculture when you have land. Where does the government have land? Where the agriculture must take place must be at the grassroots, at the local government level, at the state level, and not at the federal level. Federal government ought to just come and have an advisor on agriculture with policies making, but not to have full Ministry of Agriculture. These are things that create so much demand on the system and does not make it grow. So before the contract starts in Abuja, before it gets to Okigwe Junction, he's suffering from stroke. Before he gets to Owerri, he has developed HIV. Before he gets to my village, it's obituary. So there's over-centralization of power in this country. If we must set up an agenda, our agenda must encourage devolution of power at all levels, including that of security, which people call community government.
Listen to me, round up.
of Langerhans. Now, Mr. President, so the point I'm making here is, let us change style. And President Ahmed Lawan, you stand in the threshold of history.
Senate President.
The threshold to make name, if you tow this line you are towing, I see probably great things to come if you can follow this thing. To change the style from the old equation and change the whole from the narrative of the past and give us a new Senate which this Nigeria needs for its own development. I said to you today, we have Federal Ministry of Works. So we are going to court. Somebody will travel from here to my village, Oboko, to give a word of contract, and we'll pass the bills here. Before the minister takes off from here, directors, they have spent some few millions of naira in extra code. Yet we're talking about a nation that is going through a process of difficulties. We must cut our coat according to our materials, not according to our size. As I round up on your instruction, though I'm not done, I want to announce to you that we must begin to pick talents, even here in the Senate. When God created men, he gave each one a talent. I don't think this Senate is harvesting talents. Even in the distribution of our committees, we have not seen where people have shown expertise to be able to handle those affairs. And when men are not given such opportunity, their output becomes very, very weak. I share something with you that might amaze you. Today, I pride myself as a former governor, and I'm talking about anti-corruption. Today, I can stand with pride to say that within my 8 years in office, and give you an example, that what I did in Imo State and my performance, put together activities of governors in the past of that area cannot match it. And that's my word of honor before this honorable house.
The distinguished senator, I think restrict yourself to the issue at stake. The former governors, other former governors are not around to dispute or put their record straight as well. So I will advise that you restrict yourself to the point.
I am talking about style. I'm talking about people being allowed to talent and corruption. Now, I say so because today, if you come to Imo State, you could see the project standing. But no one has cared to ask you, what are you able to do to achieve, to make this impossible become possible? And until we begin to harvest talent and see what people have done to succeed, then we cannot make any headway. What then, and my summary, while I sit down because I don't have enough time, is, Mr. President, today, let's have a meeting of executive, judiciary, leaders, and legislature. Sit down, say to ourselves, this is what we want to achieve. We cannot carry all the projects at the same time. We don't have the money to carry it. I'm sure in the Senate now, we want to add more roads, more hospitals. Why the ones of last year have not been completed? I'm sure we're here now introducing more things. When the last one will pass in 8th and 7th Senate is still suffering from funding. Let us concentrate. In Igbo, we say, Abako nyomomre ya abu ofofo. If you need interpretation, meet the Oji. Oji can explain to you what I mean. But the principle of concentration will create a foam out of any business of a man in the course of metabolic reaction. So, Mr. President, I wish this Senate well and I wish you well. Please change the style and let's move this nation forward. God bless you.
Thank you very much.